Ladies and gentlemen, each day we wake up with a remarkable power, the power to choose what occupies our mind. Yet we often hand this power away to toxic thoughts, to fears that never happened, to judgments that were never ours, and to doubts that do not deserve space within us. The mind is like a room. If we never clean it, if we let every worry, every insult, every unnecessary fear pile up, we cannot move freely. We cannot breathe. We cannot think. But clearing it does not require a miracle, only intention. The first step to clearing the mind is to recognize that a thought is only a thought. It is not a command. It is not your identity. It is a passing cloud, not the sky itself. When toxic thoughts arise, do not wrestle with them. Do not treat them as enemies. Simply observe them. Ah, here you are again. When you shine awareness on them, their power fades. Your mind is your responsibility. You cannot control what happens around you, but you can control the thoughts you permit to stay. This idea becomes clearer when you realize that life will always give you situations you did not request, outcomes you did not expect, and challenges you did not prepare for. Yet even in the middle of chaos, there is a small, sovereign territory no one can invade, your inner world. That is where your true control lives. The external world may toss storms your way, but the internal world is where you choose whether to let the winds uproot you or simply pass by. Toxic thoughts will visit you. Doubt will knock at the door. Fear will try to take a seat. Anger will attempt to grow roots. This is the human condition, not a personal flaw. But the crucial lesson is that you do not have to offer these thoughts shelter. You do not need to entertain them, feed them, or give them authority. Thoughts arrive uninvited, but staying is optional. When you recognize that they come and go like travelers on a long road, you reclaim your strength. You stop treating every thought as truth and start seeing it as a suggestion, one you are not required to accept. Taking responsibility for your mind means becoming aware of the moment a toxic thought begins to form. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause and observe. You ask yourself whether this thought is useful, whether it belongs in your mental space, whether it leads you toward who you want to be or away from it. This simple act of awareness is powerful. It breaks the automatic chain between feeling and action. It creates space for reason to step in. It transforms you from a captive of your thoughts to the guardian of them. Responsibility also means discipline. You do not allow your mind to wander wherever fear pulls it. You train it the way an athlete trains their body, through consistent practice. You focus on what is within your control, your attitudes, your responses, the meaning you assign to events. When negativity tries to drag you into its orbit, you redirect your attention to what strengthens you: perspective, gratitude, purpose, clarity. Each time you choose a healthier thought, you reinforce the path of resilience. You build a mental environment where toxic thoughts find it harder to thrive. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending hardship doesn't exist. It means understanding that while you cannot always choose the first thought that appears, you can choose the second. You can choose the thought you nourish. You can choose the narrative you repeat. You can choose whether a momentary doubt becomes a lifelong belief. You can choose whether an irritation turns into bitterness, or whether you simply let it pass without giving it a home. When you accept full responsibility for your inner world, you stop being tossed around by the world outside you. You become steady even when circumstances shake. You gain clarity even when life becomes noisy. You recognize that the mind, once disciplined, becomes your greatest ally. Detach from what does not serve you. Observe toxic thoughts without absorbing them. This principle begins with recognizing that not everything your mind produces deserves your attention. Thoughts arise from memories, fears, assumptions, and old wounds. They form automatically, without invitation, and they often carry the weight of past experiences rather than present truth. Detaching does not mean becoming indifferent or emotionless. It means refusing to let these thoughts define you or dictate your actions. It means standing at a distance, watching them as they appear, understanding that they are temporary phenomena rather than accurate reflections of reality. When a toxic thought enters your mind, your instinct may be to react, to argue, to resist, or to suppress it. But resistance often feeds the thought, giving it energy and importance. Observation, on the other hand, weakens it. When you step back mentally and see the thought for what it is, a passing mental event, you create space between yourself and the negativity. You no longer absorb every worry as truth or every fear as destiny. You simply witness it, like watching a cloud drift across the sky, knowing it cannot stay forever. This distance offers clarity. It allows you to evaluate the thought rather than be overwhelmed by it. Detachment requires practice because the mind is conditioned to cling. It clings to old stories, unresolved conflicts, imagined futures, and constant judgments. Toxic thoughts often disguise themselves as helpful warnings or reminders, but they usually drain your energy rather than protect it. When you detach, you challenge these illusions. You ask whether the thought contributes to your peace or disrupts it, whether it strengthens you or weakens you, whether it pushes you forward or holds you back. By observing without absorbing, you choose not to let unnecessary mental burdens take root. It is important to remember that thoughts gain power through your attention. The more you focus on a toxic thought, the more influence it has. But when you observe it with neutrality, without fear, without shame, without attachment, it loses its grip. It becomes just another mental ripple instead of a storm. This shift from emotional reaction to mindful observation is what allows true detachment. You no longer personalize every thought as mine or me. Instead, you see it as something your mind produced, not something you must live by. Detaching from what does not serve you also creates room for healthier thoughts to grow. When you stop filling your mental space with negativity, you open it to clarity, purpose, and focus. You make space for calm reflection instead of chaotic rumination. You begin responding to life instead of reacting impulsively. You gain a deeper awareness of what actually matters and what simply distracts you. You protect your energy by refusing to carry mental loads that were never meant to be yours. Through consistent practice, detachment becomes a natural state of strength, where toxic thoughts are acknowledged but never allowed to anchor themselves within you. Focus is a discipline, not a mood. You cultivate it through daily actions, not through waiting for inspiration. Many people believe focus appears only when conditions are perfect, when you feel motivated, when your environment is quiet, when your emotions are balanced. But if you depend on inspiration to guide your attention, you will be at the mercy of circumstances. Focus is not something that visits you, it is something you build. It grows from consistency, from deliberate practice, from choosing the task at hand even when your mind searches for excuses to wander. Discipline is what steadies you when motivation fades, and it is discipline that shapes a focused mind. There will always be days when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. These moments are not signs of weakness, they are natural parts of being human. But they reveal an important truth: if you wait to feel ready, you may never begin. Focus does not bloom from favorable emotions. It emerges when you act despite fluctuating emotions. When you train yourself to show up, to begin, to continue, even when you don't feel inspired, you build mental strength. You teach your mind that attention is a choice, not a reward. You take control of your inner world by refusing to let fleeting moods dictate the direction of your life. Daily actions are the foundation of discipline. Small habits, repeated consistently, sharpen your focus far more than bursts of enthusiasm. Setting clear priorities, eliminating unnecessary distractions, keeping your environment organized, and dedicating specific time to meaningful work are all practices that cultivate focus. These actions may seem modest, but together they reinforce a powerful message to your mind. This is what matters, and this is where attention belongs. Over time, your mind learns to follow this structure naturally. What once felt difficult becomes routine, and what once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. Discipline also requires that you understand the difference between urgency and importance. The world is full of distractions disguised as responsibilities, notifications, noise, demands from others, and endless streams of information. These distractions pull at your attention, creating the illusion that everything needs immediate action. But focus grows when you choose what truly deserves your energy and let the rest fall away. It grows when you resist the temptation to multitask and instead fully commit to one task at a time. This commitment strengthens your ability to remain present, deepens your concentration, and trains your mind to remain steady even in a chaotic environment. There will always be challenges that attempt to scatter your attention. Your emotions may shift, your circumstances may change, and unexpected obstacles may arise. But the disciplined mind does not crumble when these moments appear, it adapts. It continues. It returns to the task. It understands that progress is not built on perfect conditions but on repeated effort. Cultivating focus is a lifelong practice, built day by day, moment by moment, through choices that honor your purpose rather than your impulses. When you commit to discipline, focus becomes your natural state rather than a fleeting burst of inspiration. Clarity comes from simplicity. Remove what is unnecessary, and what matters will reveal itself. In a world overflowing with information, noise, expectations, and constant stimulation, the mind becomes cluttered without us even noticing. We carry countless thoughts, obligations, and worries that do not contribute to our growth but still occupy space within us. Simplicity is not about having less for the sake of minimalism. It is about creating room for what is essential. When you deliberately remove the excess, the mind naturally begins to settle. Thoughts become clearer, priorities become sharper, and your sense of direction becomes stronger. Much of the confusion people experience does not come from a lack of ability or purpose, but from being pulled in too many directions at once. Trying to hold everything in your mind at the same time creates mental fog. You cannot think clearly when surrounded by distractions, emotional clutter, and unnecessary responsibilities. Clarity does not come from doing more, but from doing what actually matters. It grows when you choose fewer obligations but commit to them deeply. It strengthens when you stop chasing every possibility and focus instead on the few that truly align with who you are and where you want to go. Simplicity begins with awareness. You must first notice what is consuming your energy without offering value in return. It might be certain habits, relationships, obligations, or even internal stories you have repeated for years. Complexity often disguises itself as importance. Overthinking feels like analyzing. Busyness feels like productivity. Noise feels like progress. But when you strip these layers away, you often find that many things you thought were essential were actually distractions. When you remove them, nothing collapses. Instead, you feel lighter and more aligned. Letting go of the unnecessary also requires courage. People often cling to clutter, both mental and physical, because it feels familiar. But simplicity asks you to trust that you do not need constant stimulation or excess tasks to prove your worth. It asks you to trust that peace and productivity can coexist. It asks you to trust that you can do fewer things more meaningfully, rather than many things superficially. With each unnecessary commitment you release, you reclaim time and mental space. With each mental burden you put down, you gain clarity about what truly deserves your attention. Clarity emerges when you focus your energy on the present moment rather than scattering it across hundreds of imagined outcomes. It appears when you stop complicating decisions with fears and doubts and instead return to the basic truth of what aligns with your values. Simplicity sharpens perception. It allows you to see opportunities that were hidden beneath layers of overwhelm. It reveals solutions that were obscured by unnecessary noise. It helps you move forward with intention rather than confusion. As simplicity grows in your life, clarity becomes a natural companion. The mind no longer battles chaos but rests in purpose. You begin to act with confidence because your path is no longer clouded by everything that doesn't matter. Through removing the unnecessary, you give yourself the gift of focus, peace, and direction.